Tashdile and welcome to Tibet This Week. This is Sakina Bhatt with another edition of Weekly News on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines first. The world needs ancient Indian knowledge, says His Holiness the Dalai Lama to university students. Dharmshala Holds 14th Mind and Life Conference. His Holiness the Dalai Lama graces the 60th anniversary of Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts. US supports the succession of the Dalai Lama to be done by the Tibetan Buddhist Leadership, says Ambassador Samuel Brownback. Padma Jewels claims ₹1 Crore Grand Challenge 2019. US lashes out at China for objecting His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Ambassador Brownback's meeting. Tibet TV's film premiered at the 15th New Asia Cinema Festival. Representative Ngodup Tsering strengthens support for Tibet Policy Act 2019 in Northampton. Representative Sonam Frasi attends One Young World Summit opening and Interfaith Service in London. Switzerland raises human rights in Tibet during the visit of Chinese Foreign Minister. Referring to his fourth commitment, His Holiness said he focuses on the revival of ancient Indian knowledge that mainly promotes ahimsa and karuna. Tibetan spiritual leader granted an audience to the students and faculty members of the 6-month certificate course in ancient India wisdom at his residence in Dharmshala on Friday last week.
These days, later part of my life, I'm trying to revival of ancient Indian sort of tradition, ahimsa, karuna, these two things. World needs these things. And previous century, Mahatma Gandhiji actually implemented 1,000-year-old India's concept of ahimsa.
The course is started by the Government College of Dharmshala. His Holiness apprised that ahimsa and karuna cannot be revived through prayers or rituals but through education.
I heard about His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, from my friends from Tibet, and I was really anxious to meet him, and they said so many nice things about him, and for sure I can attest that everything that he was saying was so inspiring, was so life-giving, there was so much positive energy.
Today Rinpoche has talked us on the need of our compassion, and he told that most of our modern education is based on material growth. So he told that there is a need for us to teach our students or our youth on the need of our inner education. So Rinpoche has talked about that.
Emphasizing on the Nalanda tradition, His Holiness declared that Nalanda tradition is not simply a religion born out of faith, but rather a practice of experiment and investigation. His Holiness addressed a group of people from various fields of study who were gathered to discuss and deliberate on mind and life, particularly focusing on compassion, interconnection and transformation with His Holiness in Dharmshala on Wednesday this week.
Now, time come, we must make effort to educate human being the importance of warm-heartedness. This human marvelous brain must come combined with warm-heartedness. If this wonderful brain combined with anger, fear, then become destructive. So this brain should combine with warm-heartedness. That not through teaching, religion, but now scientific sort of research.
This is the 14th Mind and Life Conference in Dharmshala with His Holiness, convened by the Mind and Life Institute. Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts celebrated its 60th anniversary of achievement in preservation and promotion of traditional performing arts of Tibet. The event was graced by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Dharmshala on Tuesday this week. TIPA was one of the first institutions set up by His Holiness after his arrival in exile in 1959 to preserve the art and culture of Tibet. Commenting on the unique status of Tibetan refugees, His Holiness said, "Had we not come into exile and stayed back in Tibet, we wouldn't have been able to impart a Buddhist philosophy, ethics and knowledge to the world. On one hand, it is unfortunate to have become refugees, but on the other hand, we are quite blessed to live in a country where we can freely study and practice our religion, assert our identity. CTA President Dr. Lobsang Singye noted that the founding of TIPA should be counted among His Holiness's celebrated achievements and fruition of his far-sighted vision. The three-day event saw TIPA's pioneering former members and the current artists coming together for a mega showcase of the Tibetan performing arts.
Leishila, what's the reason, what's the purpose of organizing this international first conference on Tibetan performing arts?
This conference is first of its kind, and this is the International Conference on Tibetan Performing Arts, and we are commemorating this during the 60th anniversary of the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts, and we have 23 delegates, 23 speakers from all different parts of the world, including Tibetan, and it'll be a three-day conference.
So what topics do they talk about? What are the panelists talking today?
If you look at the Tibetan performing arts, there are different varieties, and we have requested them to speak about their own specialized subjects. So in that, during this 3 days conference, there are 9 different panels, and they will speak on their own issues. For example, like Nangma, they will talk about the Tibet's legacy. They'll talk about different other issues like Lingduns. There are many other issues which they are going to talk about. So in all, it'll be 9 different panels.
I have been in this institute for 10 years now, and it's on 60th anniversary. I got to perform in many of the programs celebrating Tibetan performing arts, something I enjoy doing. And also we got blessings from His Holiness, and I'm feeling very lucky and happy to be a part of this event.
The former artist of TIPA donated 21.7 lakh rupees to the institute commemorating the Diamond Jubilee. The U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, Samuel Brownback, one of the highest U.S. officials to visit Central Tibetan administration, said his visit is to send a clear message of United States support to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and his role in picking his succession. Speaking exclusively to Tibet News Bureau on his arrival on Sunday this week, Ambassador Brownback said,
"My purpose in being here is to meet with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He is somebody that I've met and worked with previously, to thank him for all of his service, and also to say that the U.S. government supports the Tibetan people, the Dalai Lama, and the other Tibetan Buddhist leaders picking any successor to the Dalai Lama, that role of picking a successor belongs to the Tibetan Buddhist system, the Dalai Lama and the other Tibetan Buddhist leaders, and doesn't belong to anybody else, not to any other government or any other place, and I want to express that clearly."
Ambassador Brownback was officially invited by the President Dr. Lobsang Singye as the chief guest for the first international conference on Tibetan performing arts and the 60th anniversary celebrations of Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts. Ambassador Brownback met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama on Monday this week. Speaking on the meeting, he said,
"We believe in religious freedom. The United States strongly supports religious freedom. We believe people everywhere, all over the world, deserve this right, and that they should be able to practice their faith peacefully and freely. Unfortunately, Tibetans aren't allowed to practice their faith freely in Tibet, and they have to get out to India or other places to practice their faith. So I was hearing with some people that have recently left, and all for the reason of wanting to be able to practice their faith freely. Religious freedom is a right that is guaranteed under UN human rights, under the charters that other countries have signed, and they deserve to have that in Tibet, and unfortunately they do not."
After the hour-long session with His Holiness, the delegation left for TIPA to attend its 60th anniversary. As the chief guest, Ambassador Brownback made 3 key appeals to the People's Republic of China. First, it called on the PRC government to release immediately the Tibetan-recognized Panchen Lama Gendun Chukyi Nyima or share the truth about his faith with the world. Second, it urged the People's Republic of China's government to change its policies in Tibetan areas that have created this tension, to respect and preserve the distinct religious, linguistic and cultural identity of the Tibetan people and permit Tibetans to express their grievances freely, publicly, peacefully and without fear of retribution. Lastly, it strongly urged the People's Republic of China's government to protect the internationally recognized right to religious freedom to all individuals and respect the human rights of members of all religious groups in accordance with China's human rights commitments. Ambassador Brownback also visited the Central Tibetan administration and met with its officials. Washington lashed out at China for objecting Ambassador Brownback's meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Tweeting in response to the China's protest, the Acting Assistant Secretary of State Bureau of South and Central Asia, Alice G. Wells, emphasized United States' enduring support for the Tibetan people and admired India's extraordinary generosity for supporting Tibetans. She called Chinese Communist Party's claims to the succession of His Holiness the Dalai Lama meritless. Washington's statement came in response to Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Jen Xiong's disapproval of the meeting between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Ambassador Samuel Brownback. Padma Jewel, a beads manufacturing company founded by Kalden Chopel and his business partner Nawang Tsultrim, claims ₹1 crore Grand Challenge 2019. The announcement was done in Dharmshala on Friday last week. Around 43 business enterprises in Tibetan exile submitted their proposals for the grand prize. Director Thupten Samdup of Youth Employment for Tibetans Initiative explained that the project was conceived by His Holiness the Dalai Lama for his concern over the employment of young Tibetans from Tibetan settlements. It is also to provide financial support to the new Tibetan entrepreneurs who wish to develop a sustainable business that would enhance the viability of the Tibetan settlements. Tibet TV's film A Place in the Sun, Stories from Tibet in Exile was premiered at the 15th New Asia Cinema Festival on Wednesday last week at the University of Massachusetts. The film, directed by Sonam Frasi and produced by Tibet TV of Central Tibetan Administration, originated in India. The film's director, Sonam Frasi, said that the spine of the film is CTA's leadership and service provided to the Tibetan people under the able leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Representative of Office of Tibet, Washington, D.C., Ngodup Tsering visited Congressman Jim McGovern and Senator Edward Markey's offices to thank them for sponsoring the Tibet Policy and Support Act of 2019. Representative also met with the mayor of Northampton and exchanged views about Tibet and the U.S. He also asked the officials to co-sponsor the Tibet Policy and Support of 2019. He later visited the City Council of Amherst and thanked the council for their gracious support. The annual One Young World Summit is a convergence of the brightest young talent from every country and sector working to accelerate social impact. Delegates from over 190 countries have participated in 4 transformative days of speeches, panels, networkings and workshops held in London from 22nd to 25th October 2019. Mr. Sonam Frasi, representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama at the Office of Tibet London, attended the grand gala opening of the Global Forum held at the iconic Royal Albert Hall. The theme discussed was, "We are one humanity and lot more unites us than divides us." Referring to His Holiness the Dalai Lama's steadfast commitment to fostering interreligious harmony, Representative Frasi called on the young delegates, future leaders of the world, to practice love, tolerance and compassion in their daily pursuit of their goals to bring about the positive changes in the world. Switzerland expressed concerns over human rights situation in Tibet and East Turkestan during the second round of bilateral strategic dialogue held earlier this week between the Swiss Foreign Minister and China's Minister of Foreign Affairs. The Swiss Foreign Minister Ignacio Cassis and China's Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi met in Bern, capital of Switzerland, to discuss bilateral cooperation, human rights and multilateralism. Mr. Cassis raised Switzerland's concern about conditions for minorities, particularly in Tibet and Xinjiang province. Economic ties were the major subjects of the discussions in the meetings of two ministers. That's all for this week. See you next time and have a great weekend.